Hello and welcome back to the channel, guys. Today is going to be a total recap of everything that's happened in the past 6 months and upcoming trends, given some of the new tariffs and things like that, and my thoughts on all of that. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, before we get started, though, I do want to review a few of the rules for those of you who are new to watching my GT3 trend videos. So I just focus on the 992 GT3 in these videos. I do not do the GT3 RS. I only look at bring a trailer data, and the reason for that is because the MSRP and the final price is well known. I do not include the buyer's premium because I just don't. You know what that is, and you'll figure it in for yourself. Just know it's about $5,000 for most of these cars. And I do not include Canadian cars. The reason for that is whether or not the car was imported from Canada or still in Canada, it doesn't matter. It affects the price, and I don't necessarily want to include it. So we're just focusing on U.S. cars that were listed on Bring a Trailer. I don't care whether or not it got sold. So those are some of my rules. Whether or not you agree with them, I've had a lot of feedback, and we've kind of decided to stay on that for now. But I'd love to hear more of your feedback. So let's talk about some of the trends. But before I do that, I do want to kind of discuss to you what I do and how I gathered some of this data. So like I said, I go through Bring a Trailer sales. So these 24 sales were the 24 sales since October of last year, which is about 6 months now, unbelievably enough. And I've got links to those over here. Whether or not they were sold, I don't really care. That's what the market was willing to bid that day. So even the ones that bid to, which is majority of them sold, by the way, which is a pretty great result for Bring a Trailer. But the ones that bid to me, that just means, the market wasn't willing to pay anymore. So that is what it got up to. It doesn't matter where the reserve was. The state it was sold in, and the color, and whether or not it was a PDK or 6-speed manual, winged car, or touring. I track all of that. The amount of miles on the car, which is obviously very important. The original MSRP, super important to me because of what I'm going to get to here. The final bid price, which is what we all care about, and then the date it's sold, and then the difference between MSRP and the final bid price. So it's almost always over, except for this one case here, which we'll talk about. This one did not sell, and we'll talk about why that happened. So don't panic. And then the thing I've been always focused on, which may or may not be that relevant anymore, is the percent over MSRP. Okay. Now, I think that number is relevant for a lot of reasons, but here's the thing that's happened now. 2024 GT3 prices are much higher than 2022 and 2023 GT3 prices because Porsche increased the price. So one of the cars we'll look at here is a 2024 price, a 2024 car, which I believe is right over here. And you'll see that it only sold for 8% over MSRP, even though it's a perfectly good car with low miles. And I think this means that there is a cap for how much people are willing to pay for these cars, regardless of what the MSRP was, right? I mean, the value has to make sense for most of these buyers. And I think we all know, if you're watching this video, you're a fan of the GT3. And one of the reasons we all like the GT3 is compared to other cars, it's a pretty good store of value, right? So I'm not saying it's going to hold its value indefinitely and continue to go up in price. I'm just saying compared to other cars, it's a pretty good store of value. If you want to argue about that, feel free to do that in the comments. So last thing I track here is PTS. So if it is a PTS car, I do carry it. That does matter quite a bit. And paint to sample is what that stands for those of you who are new to Porsche. And it's kind of a big deal. Now, some PTS cars don't get all the money, and we'll talk about that if you guys are interested. This is going to be a slightly longer video. So I hope that you're interested in this content. Give me feedback in the comments, and let's get started. So One thing I will tell you right away is this 6 months wasn't very different than the previous 6 months, despite all the stuff that's happened. Now, I wanted to do this video this week, okay, because the tariffs kicked in this week, okay? I'm not going to get political about any of this. If I see political stuff in the comments, I will remove the comment, okay? This is not going to become that channel. So what I will tell you is that the tariffs are for sure going to affect GT3 prices, because not a single part on a GT3 is manufactured in America, nor will it ever be manufactured in America. This is a German car. It's always going to be manufactured in Germany. Even if other Porsche cars come here, GT3s I don't think will ever get produced here in the US. So you are going to see a 25% increase in those prices. Who knows how long that will last? So this video was shot on April 4th of 2025, okay? This is right 2 days ago is when the tariffs went into effect. So this is perfect timing for this video. So let's talk about it, and I'll tell you what my opinion is, but just off the top, I can tell you that the prices of these cars are going to go up because of the tariffs, okay? Now, I will qualify that if the posture of the administration changes and they decide to, change the tariffs, that will not stand. So that is the one thing I will say. Okay, so they didn't change very much, but let's look at the graph, okay? And the graph tells a cool story, right? It tells us that there was a bottoming out of the over MSRP, okay? There was a bottoming out of that right around October of last year, but now we're starting to see an increase. Now, whether or not this was caused by, there's two causes here, right? One was because we kind of knew that there was going to be some sort of tariff happening, and I think people knew the prices on these things were going to go up, or perhaps they watched my previous videos and they kind of knew that the price were going to go up. But I think the biggest reason the prices are going up again has nothing to do with tariffs up to this point. It has to do with the fact that Porsche increased the MSRP on these cars tremendously. Now, I do have a couple of screenshots for you, I believe right here. This is a 2022 MSRP of $161,000 starting price. Okay, we won't look at the options just yet. And then this one over here, nope, that's 2022 as well. This is a 2024 MSRP with an base MSRP of $182,900, 21,000 more. And this isn't even dot two pricing. Dot two prices are going to be 40,000 plus more than this. If you can imagine, 40,000 plus more than this. Okay, so the dealers are not going to make a lot of money on these cars anymore because the market is showing that they're not willing to pay much more for 2024s or 2025s, I don't think, than they were willing to pay for the 2022s, okay? Because that inventory is still out there and it is going to keep prices kind of stable. So that's one little data point there. So let's go back to our graph. Okay, so I told you that since the MSRP prices are coming up so high, the delta over MSRP is probably not the best thing to look at because it doesn't really tell you how much you're paying for these cars. Okay, so I created another graph, which is actually just a price trends, okay? And you'll notice the price trends are definitely heading up. I mean, if you're just this is the trend line, okay? So this is the trend line that Excel draws. You do see that there is definitely a resurgence of prices. And this is not a great thing if you're in the market to buy a GT3, because I did tell you to buy it down here in late to mid 2023, as I told you to do that. And now prices are heading up. And I think it has mostly to do with the fact that Porsche has increased their prices. I mean, how else could you really explain it? And I think you're going to see a nice fat bump because of the tariffs. And that is just the way the European car market in the US is going to be for a little while. With that said, I want to discuss some outliers. Okay, so there is a car that sold for 40% over MSRP very recently. It got $292,000 out of a $208,000 car with 1,500 miles. So let's take a look at this car. This is a Azzurro, I don't even know how to say that word, Thetis metallic car, 2022. A master class in listing cars, by the way. Renster, good job. 1,500 miles, 6-speed manual. Exactly the car you kind of want. Yeah, so they don't have the window sticker, but it does tell you that it was a total sale price of $208,840. So this is not a very well packaged car. It's not high optioned or anything. It does have ceramic brakes, and it does have front axle lift, which are the two things I care the most about. And then it has paint to sample, which is kind of a big deal. And then interior black and fabric seat centers, GT silver stitching. Pretty nicely optioned, but not like crazy optioned, right? So it is a nice car, and it got 40% over MSRP for a total price of $292,000 plus the buyer fees, right? So this was a very recent result, just about 3 weeks ago. It's a very good result. Then we had this car that sold for $322,000. That's insane. I mean, it was only 36% over MSRP compared to this one, but $322,000. I mean, we're talking about F8 Tributo money right now, right? That's some crazy numbers, okay? So let's look at this car. That's the car I had up. It's a Maison Blue, which is a beautiful color. I mean, it's a great color. There's nothing to say about it. And this was a car out of North Carolina, 2,100 miles, 6-speed manual touring. Just a great looking car, but you know what's crazy about this car is here's the window sticker. Look at this thing right here. It's this exclusive manufacturer leather interior, $15,000 option. That's crazy, right? And then there was some special wishes, factory commissioning special wishes for another $9,000 or so. And then obviously PCCBs and stuff like that, paint to sample. You know, it did bring the MSRP up to $236, which is a pretty high MSRP for a 2022 car, but a very low MSRP for a 2025 car. You'll see that you won't even be able to option a car that low. Which is a shame. So that's kind of why this car, I think, got all that money. Is it had this not custom, but the manufacturer interior. If we can get some good views of that. I didn't find it super impressive, to be honest with you. It's cool, but I don't really know. Not that big a deal. It's a beautiful car. Don't get me wrong. I just don't see $322,000 here. One of the highest prices we've seen on these cars. Yeah, super cool car though. I mean, and again, another master class on listing. They like literally took their time to list this car. Great photos of the interior underneath the car with the wheels removed and calipers showing and all that stuff. I mean, this is how you want to show the car. So they did a great job. Good for them. They got all the money, and it sold at the last day of February this year for big money, $322. Okay. Then we've got this car that got 41% over, and this is delivery miles, essentially very low optioned car, and it sold for a lot. So let's see why that happened. I think I know why. Primarily because, people love this color too. And this, to me, if I was going to get a non-paint to sample color, it would be this guy. It's agate gray or agate or agate. I think it's agate. Agate is how you say it. And it just makes the car look so mean. This car doesn't even have PCCBs, and it sold for $270,000. It's, again, the delivery miles helped, but I think this color, man, I think it really helps. I mean, this is not, it's a 6-speed car. It's touring, obviously, but, and it has the kind of the comfort seats, I think the 18 ways. And, yeah, beautiful car, just a good listing. And it was probably on the right day. And it did get all of that money, $270. Beautiful car, no PCCBs, $270. Very crazy. Very low MSRP on this car, $191. To get 41% over is a very good result. And okay, I did tell you I was going to discuss this guy here. This is $15,000 below MSRP. It didn't close, so they weren't going to sell it. It's a pretty good bid to amount. $270,000 is they bid to. But guess what? The MSRP was $285,000. And you're thinking, how the heck could a 22 car, slate gray, which isn't even PTS, go to $285,000? Well, glad you asked. Let me show you. And this is why, people, you do not want to crazy option your car with just ridiculousness. Look at that. This is just terrible. Oh my God. This color. I wonder when the guy ordered it, if he had a different red in mind, because this is just looks like Play-Doh. I don't like it. I don't like it. And I don't think anybody else liked it either. So it's essentially a winged 6-speed with, let's see how many miles. 2,300 miles. I mean, definitely not a lot. Right? PCCBs, all this stuff. And let's talk about, I believe, is this it? Yes, $285,000 sale or, window sticker. And here's how that happened. They paid $62,000 in special wishes for this car. That is, it's the R word. I can't. Who in their right mind would spend that kind of money to get this interior, right? It just doesn't make any sense. And that's the results you ended up with. And the car didn't even sell at the end of the day. I mean, gosh, that's terrible. They totally screwed this up. It's just bad. I would not want to be driving around in this. This is, got a lot of words I could describe this. Doesn't even have that signed interior. Typically, when you get that special wishes, the people at the manufacturing plant will be signing the inside of your car and whatnot, which adds a little bit to the provenance. Like Andreas himself might sign your car. I've seen quite a few of those at the concourse events. But this car. Just exactly how you do not want to do that to your car. So I thought I would do this live with you. So we're going to bring up go to Car Gurus over here. And I'm not going to sign in. Just going to go to Porsche. Just to see how many cars are on the market today and show you how I search for this. Search for the 911. And then the other thing I do is I say that I want to do it nationwide. I look for cars 22 and newer. And then I look for the trim of GT3 Coupe and GT3 Touring, obviously skipping the RS. Last thing I do is I go to vehicle history and I hide all the cars that had any accidents or that were part of a fleet. And that leaves me with 142 cars on the market as of today. That's a lot, okay? That's a lot. The market usually hovers right around between 120 and 130. So 142 is more, right? And if I look for, the lowest price car on the market today, it's usually not up here because these are usually sponsored, but these aren't sponsored. Those actually are the lowest ones. So 223 is the lowest one with 13.6 miles. Nope, not very well optioned. I can tell by the red calipers and whatnot. So that's kind of the lowest. And then you'll see as you get into some of the better optioned cars. Again, I still don't see a PCCB here. Here's the first one, 10,000 miles on it. So if I look for a car with less than 10,000 miles, we'll keep it at that. Then the lowest one is 233,990, which not a bad deal, really, compared to what you're getting on Bring a Trailer for most of these cars. So I think that's a good deal. But it climbs pretty quickly after that, right? And we don't really know what's going on with this car. One owner car, no accidents, clean title. I mean, yeah, if I was in the market, I'd go look at this car. Yellow is not the best resale color, by the way. Based on the data I've been tracking, yellow is not the best resale. I don't know why. I like yellow. I think it's a great color. There's a couple of different yellows. There's signal yellow, and there's the other one. I forget what it's called. But this is not a it's not a touring, and it's not a 6-speed. So that kind of one thing I have noticed, by the way, a lot of the recent sales have been touring cars. The majority of them, in fact, have been touring cars. It's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 24 were winged cars. So the rest were all touring cars. That's pretty crazy. And the majority are manual. We can have this debate all day long, guys, but I love the PDK in my GT3, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I've driven the manual. It is a good manual, but for going to the track and autocross events and things like that, I just think, you'd be doing yourself a big disservice. I get it. I get it. But I personally, if I could only have one, I would still keep the PDK. Let's see, what else do we want to talk about? Tariffs. Okay, so tariffs went into effect, and I think that is going to bump up prices from where they are today. I think you're going to see the numbers jump up by about another 10 or so %. Okay, that's a lot, given that Porsche is increasing prices by more than 10%, in some cases 20%. Oh, one of the things I wanted to point out, actually, I'm glad I remembered, I wanted to compare option prices. The option prices between 22 and 24 hadn't changed very much. You see the PCCBs right here, they were 10,110 in 2024, and they were the same in 2022. That's interesting. The LED matrix, though, PDLS, was actually a little bit more money. It was $4,000 versus $3,270, so that's kind of higher. And the front axle lift was the same, front axle lift $3,670 and $3,670. So the prices of options hadn't gone up in 2024, but from what I can tell so far from discussions I see and some of the numbers that have been released and whatnot, I think the .2 options are going to be more expensive, considerably more expensive. So look forward to that, given that I believe the starting price is also gone from 161 to, like we said, 182. And now in 2025 with the .2, it's going to be, I think, 220 or something like that, which is absolutely insane. Then you got the 220 and you're going to add 25% tariff on it. So what is that? 220 times 1.25. So it's 275, right? That's without dealer markup, right? So even if you had zero dealer markup, you're at $275,000 plus tax wherever you are, which is typically 10% in the US. So that's 1.1. So you're at $302,000 out the door, and very likely you're still going to be paying, $25,000 in Dealer markups, oops, yeah, you know what I mean. So 302 plus 25. So 327 for a GT3 to get a .2. And in my opinion, and in many people's opinion, the .2 is actually a lesser car than the .1, but at best it's the same. Anyway, that's another controversial thing, I think. A lot of the reviewers seem to like it more, but not enough that they would care if, like, you know, which one they had. This turned into a pretty long video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I didn't skip anything. My advice today is, in the next week or two, if you've been looking to get into one of these cars, in the next week or two, there's probably still a bit of inventory you can get into at current prices before the upward market pressure from the .2s and the tariffs raise these prices by 10%. I've said it before, and I've been right on the money, by the way. Like, this is my 6th video in this series. Every single one of my predictions was dead on perfect. So unless the tariffs get reversed or Congress is successful in nullifying them somehow or whatnot, I think you're going to see a big upward pressure on these cars. So if you can, get out there and maybe pick up one of these cars we just looked at on over here, and you've been looking at some of these options near you. These are pretty decent prices, and I don't think you're going to see them this low for very long. And I by the way, I know these are not low prices. I'm saying in relation to where they're going to be. Okay, well, that's about all I got for you today. Thanks for tuning in. Leave your comments below. I look forward to hearing back from you, and see you on the next one.